Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our second annual Launchpad Summit. In this session, we will be talking about a medium that both Michael and I are very passionate about, using texting to boost revenue, engagement, and satisfaction. Simply put, if you incorporate texting into your communication strategy, it drives money. Our hope is by the end of this session, your question will not be, should I take advantage of this, but how? All right. Before we get started, let's take care of a few housekeeping items. Number one, all of our sessions are being recorded. In fact, shortly after this session in the lobby, you'll be able to see the recording. We'll also be sending you an email with a link to the recordings. Now, during the session, I actually invite you to send in your questions. We'll have a Q&A feature at the end of the session. So at the bottom of your Zoom window, you should see that icon for Q&A. So by all means, take advantage of that, enter in your questions. Then finally, let's keep this conversation going. We invite you to share your thoughts on social media. You can use hashtag #CTMSummit21. And finally, there's one more day. So tomorrow, definitely invite you to come to those sessions. In fact, we have a special treat for you. For anybody who enters, who attends any of those sessions, you'll be entered into a raffle to win professional services package. That package is valued at $600, so you don't want to miss out on that. All right, so what will we cover today? Texting, and why should you care? Some stats kind of give you kind of the groundwork as far as who's using texting. Then we're going to change gears a little bit, and Michael's going to give you several ideas on how businesses are using texting, as well as some tips on how you can get started. And as I mentioned earlier, at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. So when I was first asked to talk about texting at the summit, Michael Barnett was actually the first person I thought of. You see, several people in the company had already come to me about Michael before I'd even spoken with him. We're talking leadership, development, strategic partnership, customer success. I was like, obviously, this is a guy you should listen to. So I started talking to him and I read, okay, now I understand. See, Michael distinguished himself in the marketplace for how he has not just helped his business grow, but helped his clients grow, particularly when it comes to how he's leveraged texting. He's a strategic entrepreneur who's passionate about solving market problems in the SMB segment. As an entrepreneur, he founded Yarrow Financial, a fintech marketplace lending firm, and Bipath, a business call center automation company. So Michael, thank you for joining us today for this session.
Thank you for having me, Ken. I really appreciate it.
Good, good. All right, and my name is Ken Sylvain. I'm the Director of Customer Success here at TrackingMetrics, and I have over 20 years of experience working in client relations. Many years ago, I cut my eye teeth, my interactive teeth at AOL. I created their billing call center. Now that team grew by over 2,000%, where we literally could not hire people quick enough. We had to rely on technology to extend our workforce. And I wish I had an opportunity to use texting as well as a few other features that CTM offers to connect with our base. Now, along with that, a few years ago, I started looking at our client base, and I noticed several of my clients had explosive growth. We're talking 200 to 500% growth in a year's time. So what was the common element? What did all of them do to make this so special? And each one of them actively used texting. In fact, they had even automated this process where they used a lot of our triggers. Dug a little bit deeper. I found other clients who had introduced texting, then their call volumes had jumped. All right, there's something to this. Again, I looked more into texting, and I was amazed at the stats. In fact, I realized I was late to the party. The stats not only validated why clients had really connected with these companies, but showed that this trend was growing. So let's take a look at some of the things that I saw. Number one, what do we use our cell phones for? Normally I would say, oh, of course, to talk to people. But as it is now, we text on it. In fact, this stat shows that 88% of people use their phones mainly for texting. In fact, 6 billion texts go out daily. Now, as a marketer, this was like mind blowing. 95% of text messages are read and responded to within 3 minutes of being received. And this is a conservative number. I looked at some of the other stats and it was even higher. Again, 95% of text messages are read and responded to within 3 minutes. So what does that mean? Texting has really become normalized, where consumers prefer to work with companies via texting. Looking at this, there's actually a number of different reports that compare texting and responding to companies to other mediums. And while the reports differ, texting is the consistent winner. In fact, in this report, twice as many respondents preferred texting, 48%, to any of the other venues. In fact, email was the second, and that was 22%. Again, why is this? Because texts are read and responded to within 3 minutes. The open rate is way out there. So for marketers, this is gold. Something else, customers are preferring this. In fact, when you look at the SMS programs that they have, the loyalty programs, here the stat shows that 90% clients like that. In fact, I like Red Robin Burgers. I'm a part of their program. I love the fact that they text me when I've earned a free burger. Happiness, and wife doesn't have to cook. So, we're all happy that I'm not alone. Again, this stat shows that 75% of the customers want SMS programs. It's easy to see, easy to use. So, and people like that time as far as being able to control that. Now, what industries, what businesses are leaning into this? The number one is real estate. In fact, this makes sense for us. The first one of our clients who purchased short codes from us was a home builder. One of my other clients is a national home builder. Talked to their agents, they love texting. It says that much higher conversion rates when they use texting. Who are some of the honorable mentions in this area? Insurance companies. They were actually the first ones to lean in and embrace texting. So they've used it to connect with their clients and prospects. Also, retail establishments. They have affinity marketing programs that have been very successful. Looking here at one of the Forbes articles on marketing tools for online retailers, their studies found that 78% people wish they could have a text conversation with the business. On the other end of that, 61% of businesses wish they had phone numbers that receive texts as well as calls. In fact, I have another client, a national franchise client, where I talked to them. They had already had great growth. I said, you need to use texting. Let's make it that much higher. No, our prospects, our clients don't text. I said, really? In CTM, that's default, that your call numbers are also text enabled. And they hadn't turned it off. So I went to their text log and I saw people writing in, like to have an appointment, like to schedule an appointment. I really liked your stuff. And she didn't know. So that was lost opportunities. Definitely something you want to take advantage of. And more studies are showing that clients prefer text conversations. So bottom line here, it drives revenue. SMS verification conversion rates are 250% higher than email verification. That's according to Salesforce. Texting a prospect after initial contact can increase conversion rates by 112%. Now, this is the big one. Sending 3 or more follow-up text messages to prospects increases conversions by as much as 328%. The wild thing here is that a lot of those things can be automated with triggers. So earlier you heard me say I was late to the party. Not really. While there's been 119 billion more texts received last year than in 2019, that's 2.2 trillion with a T, messages in 2020. It's still growing. In 2021, we expect the message volume to grow by 40%. In fact, the projection for 2024 is that there'll be 8 billion mobile users in the world. Look at this growth curve of wireless data traffic. There's no leveling off there. So this is definitely something to keep an eye on. So let's take a step back and recap what I went over. First of all, why is texting so special? Everybody's doing it. messaging is now the primary use of mobile phones. Texting has become so normalized that it's now a preferred way of communicating. And it actually, the stats show, it drives higher conversions. And the market is growing. Again, last year, I'm sorry, 2021, 40% growth in messaging. And when we look towards 2024, 8 billion mobile cell phone users. This is a great opportunity. So let's change gears a little bit. And Michael's going to let you know about how some of his clients are using texting and some tips on how you can take advantage of this as well. Thank you, Michael.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ken. And if you're not excited about jumping into text messaging after that, I don't know what else to tell you. But the numbers are real. The numbers are accurate. Texting is definitely something that we should all be using in our businesses. So my name is Michael Barnett, and I'm the founder of Bipath. Bipath is an omnichannel communications platform and a cloud-managed application integration platform. Essentially, we are a white label customer of CTM. We've been a high-level partner of CTM for the last 3 years. And when we launched Bipath, we were looking for a platform that we could white label and resell to our current customer base. As Ken mentioned a moment ago, I had previously founded a finance company and was looking for some other products to offer to my current customers. After a long research process, we landed on CTM. Actually, it was by really good luck. And over the last 3 years, we've developed an amazing relationship. So we've launched, again, Bipath, which is a white labeled version of CTM, and we call it a semi-managed communications company. So what that means is at Bipath, what we do is we use done-for-you services for our customers. So when a customer subscribes to us, we actually do a lot of the background engineering, setup, and configurations for them. And then recently, we launched our Flows platform. And Flows is a managed application integration service. So it's a service that allows businesses to connect their CRMs, their ERPs, their marketing applications, and any other software tools that they use in their business. And if they want to connect it to the CTM platform, that's what our automation services does. We can also connect any platform together that utilizes APIs. So today we're here to talk about text messaging and essentially who uses text messaging and why. We're going to jump into some of the most common business use cases and what businesses use text messaging for. Then we're going to wrap things up with what are the best ways to get started. But first, again, the relationship. CTM and their platform it's probably one of the most amazing things that I've experienced so far in my professional career. Their platform really makes it easy for us as an integration partner and as a platform to service our customers. Not only are we a platform, but we are also a customer of CTM. So all the companies that I've founded and that I'm a part of also use CTM as a customer. And then, of course, as a platform provider, we provide platform and services to our end users. One of the things that we love about the platform is features are awesome. The support is amazing. So if you haven't had an interaction with the CTM support team yet, when you do, you will definitely be pleased. Amazing support team. And the final thing that I love about the platform and the team is that they are a mature company, but there's still a startup mentality, meaning they are not afraid to roll up their sleeves and really help you with any of the issues or challenges or solutions that you're trying to accomplish. If there is feedback that you like to provide to the company, they take feedback to heart and look to implement that feedback in those types of things. Most super large organizations, you don't usually get that type of service and that type of feel, but with CTM, you do. One of the amazing things about this company. So let's jump into who's using text messaging and why. What we've seen, at least from the customers that do business with us, is there's three main categories. The SMB, so the small and medium-sized businesses, we actually find that we see more of the SMB companies than probably the larger enterprise companies using text messaging efficiently. But in Ken's analogy earlier, Red Robin, they're clearly using it to spread the loyalty around to their customers and give away free burgers. But SMBs, we see tons of those types of organizations using text messaging for sales and marketing, or even support and operational use cases. We also see enterprise organizations using text messaging as a means to communicate with their customers, mostly in sales and in marketing cases. I haven't seen large enterprises using text messaging much in the support and operations. That's mostly reserved for SMBs from what I've seen these days. And lastly, healthcare. Although healthcare is a part of enterprise, I think healthcare companies deserve their own carve out. And I personally have experienced my healthcare company communicating information to me via text messaging. And we have also implemented text message campaigns and strategies for healthcare companies. So these are the three categories of organizations that we've seen utilizing text messaging for sales, marketing, support, and operational strategies. Now let's talk about some of the most common business use cases. So what are they using text messaging for? So many of you may have experienced some of these things. I know I personally have experienced a lot of these things. And as a business owner, I've used text messaging for some of these things as well. One of the first categories is notifications. So notifications are things like when a customer purchases a product from you, are you sending them a text message notifying them that they've just made an order, or an order confirmation, or maybe you've received order confirmations via text messages from a vendor or a supplier or a company that you've purchased something from. Or maybe you've made an appointment with your dentist or your doctor, and they're communicating that they have, that they've confirmed your appointment with you via text message. I know we do that here, and I've experienced that as well. Also, account issues. I've seen, and we've experienced and have implemented cases for companies where they wanted to communicate to their customers when there were outages or system issues or system challenges. Those can be delivered as well via text message. And lastly, status updates. Status updates, I think, is probably the most common use case in a sales scenario, where maybe if you have a multi-step sales workflow, and as a client is moving through the stages and steps of your sales process, you may want to communicate information to them via text message. For instance, as Ken mentioned, I also own a finance company. And so when a customer is applying with us, one of the things that we do is we communicate statuses to the customer as they walk through the process. So we've received your application, get a text message, or your application has been approved, you'll get a text message, or you have just been funded, there's money in your account and you've received a text message. So those are some of the notification use cases that at least we've seen here at Bipath. Next, of course, which is probably the thing that most of you want to hear about, are the marketing cases. And there are lots of marketing cases. However, some of the most common are landing page engagement. So when a client goes to your landing page or goes to your client's landing page, fills out the form, puts in their email address, maybe their telephone number and some other information, and then clicks submit, immediately that client should receive engagement. And in most cases, the engagement that a client receives is a success email. And the success email would look like, thank you very much for submitting your form. Somebody will get back to you soon. And I think we've all have experienced that before. But one of the things that we all definitely haven't experienced is when we complete those landing pages, receiving a text message. Now, the cool thing about the CTM platform is you can easily build landing page automatic text message engagement using form reactor, and if not, using triggers, to where when a client completes a landing page, they're automatically engaged. And the best thing about engagement is with the CTM platform is that you can now engage in a multi-way communication with that client. It's not just a one-way message, where most platforms only allow a marketer to, or a user to send a one-way message that can't be responded to. But with the CTM platform, it's conversational. So when that message is sent to engage with that customer who just completed a landing page, if that customer responds, or I should say, when they reply, they can then be assigned to an agent internally who then will engage in a conversation with that customer. That is gold. The next is a companion to an email marketing campaign. What most of us business owners or marketers have done is at some point we may have launched an email marketing campaign to notify our customers, our users, our prospective customers or prospective users of something about our company, whether it's news, it's a new product, something that we wanted to communicate to them, etc. However, what many of us don't do is pair text messaging with that email marketing campaign. So when an email is sent, a companion slimmed down version of that email should be sent via text message. Again, it creates another communication and an additional engagement point, especially if you're sending some type of marketing that deserves or demands a response. Next, discounts and coupons. I think this is probably the case that many of us have experienced on this call, consumer business owners alike. And that's discounts and discount marketing and coupons where we have subscribed to a specific business's text message campaign service. For instance, Ken, as he mentioned earlier, had enrolled in the Red Robin campaign, so that when he had hit a certain milestone or a certain accomplishment, that Red Robin sent him a text and said, "Hey, congratulations, you've earned a free burger or burger and fries," or whatever the case may be. So many, if not most businesses, if they're using text messaging, this is what they're using it for. They're using it to communicate discounts and coupons to their customers. And lastly, autoresponders. Autoresponders can also look like keyword campaigns or keyword marketing campaigns. These are those things where you internally as the business owner or the marketing or the marketer can create a keyword that is auto responded to when one of your subscribers sends a message to your phone number. For instance, text free burger to this phone number. And if a client or customer texts free burger to this telephone number, then your system or your CTM instance will automatically respond with some information. Maybe it automatically responds with a coupon or some kind of code or some kind of something that signifies the benefit that your customer will receive from that keyword. Now, businesses use keywords for a lot of different reasons, not just promotional reasons. It can be, I actually was speaking to a customer earlier today who they were using text messages to communicate employment information to their employee base, like schedules, information about COVID-19 safety, and et cetera. And they wanted to create keywords that their employees can text to get this information. Actually, one of the things they wanted to do was they wanted to create a keyword so that when their employees texted it, they would get all of the company's days off for the year. So if it was XYZ holiday or whatever, they wanted their employees to get that on their mobile devices. So we easily created a keyword for them so that when a employee texted a calendar to their telephone number, the system auto responded with all of the days off for the year. So those are some of the marketing cases. And then of course, we have specific sales cases, and some of those sales cases would look like a manual workflow. So this would be when and if a sales agent was speaking to a prospect or a current customer, and if they just wanted to send a one-off message to that prospect or customer, super easy to do that within the CTM platform. So one-off messages are super easy and really simple, but also there's other cases where you may want an automated sales workflow, where if you have a list of customers that have previously opted in to receiving messages from you, you can essentially load that list into your platform, and you can create automated campaigns that send information to those customers on a drip schedule. So it could be one of those things where if a customer has subscribed to a certain or purchased a certain product or a certain service, and if you wanted to send drip messages over a period of time, or if it was a prospect that had previously opted in but didn't purchase from you, and you wanted to communicate sales related information to get them to eventually respond, that's where the automated workflows come into play. And the CTM platform makes it relatively easy, and it's super powerful to get them some of those things done. Lastly, we have the support and help desk cases. So as I mentioned a moment ago, you can create keywords within the platform. I've witnessed, seen, and we've implemented many keyword-based support strategies for our customers, where if there are issues with a service or issues with a technology or application or some product that the customer is using, that they can text a certain keyword, and then support options would then be returned back to that customer via text message. I've seen cases where we've implemented text to call strategies, where if you text a phone number or text with a keyword, then the CTM platform can be trained to automatically call that customer and connect the customer with a live agent. And then lastly, the third most common support and help desk case would be scenarios where a prospect or a current customer calls into a support center or calls into a sales agent or calls just your hotline or what have you. And let's say the call's missed, so no one answers the call. So nobody was available. You weren't available by case or by chance. And you wanted to train the CTM platform to automatically then respond via text message, communicate to the customer that you're sorry that you've missed their call, but then you can also generate an instant outbound call to that customer when someone does become available. So those are the three support and help desk cases. Next, what I'd like to discuss is how our clients use text messaging. We're going to talk about some of the results and also some of the lessons that they have learned and that I have actually learned as well. So we're going to be looking at two different types of companies in these examples. We're going to look at a marriage coaching company, and we're going to be looking at a cool sculpting company, and we're going to talk about where they were before they implemented text messaging, and then we'll talk about where they were after 3 months of implementing text messaging as a communication strategy. So the relationship and marriage coaching company. So this company had been in business for at least 5 years. It's more than 5 years, but I know around 5 years. And what they would do is they would create these boot camps where a couple would come in and they would be with their coach for 5 days, a 5-day boot camp, and then after 5 days, they have almost like a plan that they had to work on or work through after the boot camp to keep things moving in the right direction. So when they came to us, they didn't have any text messaging methodology whatsoever. They used email, and they were calling their clients and speaking to them about how things were going. And so what we did was we built a text messaging strategy that their clients would enroll in post boot camp. And what this strategy looked like was their members would receive messages could be every day, could be every Wednesday, every Tuesday, depending on the type of coaching and depending on the need. They had a very customized messaging campaign that would be automated to each couple. But nonetheless, let's say if it was a husband and wife scenario, the husband would receive his specific messages and the wife would receive her specific messages. They may receive them on the same day, they may receive them on different days, but those messages typically contain some type of action step. It could have been compliment your partner or compliment your spouse today, or have you worked on this strategy with your spouse today or this week? And so each message was built with some sort of action step. And then what they would do is they would follow up with their the coaching company would follow up with their customers once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, once every 3 months, etc., to survey them to understand how things have gone. And so one of the things that they've noticed was that after implementing the text messaging strategy, they saw a 22% increase in program completion rates. So after the initial boot camp, their customers were provided a program, and that program lasted for a specific period of time. And then they measured their clients on how many completed the program and how many didn't complete the program. And so they experienced a 22% increase in program completion rates. And then secondly, they also reported a 62% increase of better interactions. These are social interactions. So it's, do I feel better about my relationship? Did the coaching help? Is this benefiting me? So before text messaging, things weren't going nearly as well as they were going post implementing their text messaging strategy. Second company is a cool sculpting company, and cool sculpting are those companies that they do like the fat blasting. They have those machines, and it's non-surgical, and they can rub them over your skin, and vamoosh, the fat goes away somehow. It's magic, from what I've been told. But nonetheless, a Arizona-based cool sculpting company came to us with a need to implement text messaging campaigns. And their initial goal was to find ways to increase conversion rates of customers that came in to the store but didn't actually take action. So that was their first goal. And then their second goal was, well, how can we get our current customers to buy more services, or to buy additional services or other services or upgraded services and packages, et cetera. So one of the things that they experienced 3 months after implementing their campaigns was a 42% increase in new sales and a 26% increase in cross sales. I think those numbers are pretty good. And when you look at the cost of text messaging versus the cost of other marketing modalities, I mean, it's very low cost, especially when you look at the gains that you can increase in terms of selling new products, cross-selling current products, and just generalized overall adoption. So both of these specific companies were pretty good in terms of tracking their pre and post text messaging outcomes. So we were able to get some pretty solid and accurate stats on how effective text messaging was for these organizations. So now let's talk about how you can get started. If you haven't already implemented texting, or if you have but want to improve it, of course, Call TrackingMetrics is the company to work with to help you improve your campaigns, improve your strategies, I should say. And if you haven't yet joined the party, well, let's talk about how you can join the party and launch the rocket. So the first thing that you will want to do if you haven't yet launched any type of text messaging campaign, first you need to figure out what you want to accomplish. So what do you want to do? Do you want to use text messaging for sales? Do you want to use it for your marketing? Do you want to use it for operational and support use cases? Got to figure out what you want to use it for first. I have been in too many scenarios where customer comes to us and they've implemented something, it isn't working. And the reason why it wasn't working is because they weren't clear on exactly what they wanted to use it for. So my suggestion would be to come up with a clear vision on exactly what you want to use it for. And then let's break it down into the first thing that you can implement easy for yourself. So for instance, if you want to use it for marketing, well, I would suggest not implementing it everywhere. Let's find one area where we can implement text messaging, and then let's kind of build that out, and then let's test it and see how it works for you. Once we can find a method that works, then we can grow from there. So first, figure out what you want to accomplish, figure out what your use case is. Second thing you want to do is you want to figure out if you can do it on your own or if you need help. Many things you could probably do on your own to implement, build your automation and release your campaign in the wild. But in some cases, you actually may need some assistance, either from the CTM support team, from the professional service team, or in other cases, you may need to work with a company like Bipath to help accomplish your goals. Third is implementation and testing. We're very big on testing here at Bipath. Implement, test some more until you get it right, and then release your new campaign methodology into the wild. There's nothing worse than releasing a new campaign to live customers and it not working exactly the way that it should. So figure out what you want to accomplish, what your use case is, determine if you can do it on your own, and if you need help. And if you need help, help is here for you. And third is implement and test. Implement, test. Next is train your internal user. So first you need to figure out who is going to be managing these campaigns internally. If it's not you or someone else, you definitely want to train that individual on how to use the platform the right way. And then lastly is execution. So now it's putting the campaign into practice, managing the campaign effectively, and reporting on your campaign's results. Reporting is super, super important. So it's important to understand where you were before you launched your campaign. Then, of course, to manage and measure your campaign's effectiveness, you need to understand where you are or where you are after the campaign. So those are the 5 steps to launch the rocket. Of course, we're here as a team to support your efforts to getting things done, and hope that you were able to take a lot of nuggets away from this session. Again, my name is Michael Barnett. Super excited to be here with you today, and excited to answer some of the questions that you have for us. So with that said, we'll pass it back over to Ken, and we'll open things up for questions.
Always works better when I unmute first. Thank you so much, Michael. That's great content. Appreciate it. So want to, like Michael said, open it up to questions. If you have any questions you'd like for us to answer, we'd love to help you. Just use the QA button on the bottom. All right. Here's one. How quickly can this be done? Michael, did you want to take that one?
Sure. That is a great question. So there are things that can be implemented very easily and quickly. For example, the client that I was working with earlier this morning, they wanted to implement the calendar keyword autoresponder for their employees. That took me to build for them only 2 minutes. So that's something that's super easy, but for the more complex implementations, it could be a couple of days. So it really depends on what it is that you want to accomplish. And if it is something that only requires just the CTM system, is it something that requires an integration between your email marketing platform or your CRM platform and the CTM platform? So I guess it all depends. But for, I think, an individual who has significant experience working on the platform, things will, of course, go a lot quicker. But if you're new or a novice at implementing these type of strategies in CTM, then it may take just a little bit of time, but it's nothing that can't be learned.
Good. Thank you. Another one is, what are some of the best practices? So I think we've talked about some of the things you can do, some of the best practices, and perhaps both of us can answer that. One is, when it comes to texting, you do want to be careful that these are people who have opted in. One of the things that I recommend to my clients is, when you're using online forums, put on there a checkbox that the default is that it's checked, that it's okay to communicate via text. That way you have something on record where this person said it's okay to send text, and they really are part of your drip now. They're a part of your contact list that you can market to, you can send things to from time to time, etc. So there's a lot of ways you can do this. I even have clients that have had that in the IVR, that if it's okay to send text, please press 1. So there's a lot of ways you can have people opt in. And again, I've seen a lot of retail establishments and others, online stores use this quite well as far as making sure that their prospects are given permission to be placed on the list so they can periodically send text to. What are some of the other things?
I would agree with that 100%. I will say, for those of you who are not in the US, so for those of you who are in Europe, I'm not an attorney, so you definitely want to speak to your business attorney or general counsel, but there is something called GDPR in Europe that is important will be important to you as it relates to opt-ins and opt-outs for text messages. One of the things that we can do in the US that you can't do in Europe is we can put those check boxes on the forms in the US and auto check them. However, in Europe, you can't auto check those boxes. So it's something to just keep in mind. But to echo Ken's sentiment, opting in is super important. So that's definitely a best practice. And the question becomes, how do I get customers to opt in? One, of course, landing pages. Anytime someone completes a landing page, there should be a checkbox there that says something to the effect of, the customer is opting into receiving telephone calls from potentially an automated dialer, and also text messages. But also there's other ways too. Other ways could be if a customer needs to apply with you for a service, or if they're signing up for something and there's a registration form, or if there is or if you're a retail establishment and maybe at the checkout counter you have an iPad there where you're collecting opt-ins. Actually, that's one of the things we did for one of our customers not that long ago. Was they own a clothing store somewhere in Chicago, and they wanted to set up a little mini iPad kiosk where the customers at the register can just sign up for their discounts and notifications. So we created a very basic form reactor. We embedded that form reactor on their website, and then that form reactor form acted as a subscribe to the text messaging list form. So that's another way. Another best practice would be keep your messages short and sweet, short and sweet. One of the things that I've seen with novice marketers is they try to get too much inside of a text message, too many characters, too many words, paragraphs of information, animated images and all kinds of crazy stuff. What we've found is the most effective is keep your messages short and sweet. The next best practice, this is in a sales and marketing scenario, is echoing something that Ken said in his introduction, which is message frequency. What we found is messaging customers more than 2 or 3 times is very, very, very effective and would typically result in a much higher conversion rate. Sending a single message, it'll work, but it's definitely not something that's going to get the yield that we're all looking for. You must communicate over and over and over and over again until that person takes some type of action. Now, depending on what type of service you're selling or product you're selling, you may want to message more or less. That's something that we would consult with you on from a strategic standpoint. But the key number is between 2 and 5 from what we've seen. Another best practice would be if a customer wants to opt out, give them an easy way to do so. So by default, of course, if a client messages or returns the message with stop, then automatically we meaning the platform, will automatically opt that customer out. But there's other times when a client may respond and they may not say stop, they may say something else that's not stop, but it also signifies get me off your list. And so it's important that you build a trigger that captures the most common opt-out messages. And so what that will do is that will keep your reputation high, so you're not messaging individuals who don't want to get messages from you anymore. Super important, because it can ruin your reputation if you don't opt out your customers properly. So we'll say that's another best practice.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much, Michael. In fact, you actually answered the next two questions that came in. So thank you. I think we're actually up against the end of time, but I just want to thank everybody for attending, as well as Michael. Really appreciate the content that we discussed here. I think it's very important. I definitely have seen clients soar by leveraging this. So I definitely invite you to take advantage of it as well. Also on your screen, you'll see a scan for the survey. I do recommend you do that as well, because we want to find out how we can be better as well. So thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.